In this video, I'm going to talk about how I lost 40 kilos, kept it off for 15 years, became a nutritionist, and then now, 20 years later, I have gained weight back and I have decided to take Mounjaro. Stick around, it's a wild, wild ride. Hi, my name's Gina. I am a qualified nutritionist, and at this point in time, I'm about 20 kilograms overweight. I think that's about 44 or 46 pounds, something like that. I am going to be doing updates regularly, and I'll take you guys through my weight loss journey as I go. As I said, I have started taking Mounjaro. So I've been on Mounjaro now for about, I think I'm up to my 9th week. And so far on Mounjaro alone, I have lost about 8 kilos. I had a week where I had my 50th birthday, so that week was out the window because there was a lot of alcohol involved. But apart from that, I've been losing, generally speaking, about 1 kilo a week. And prior to Mounjaro, I had half-heartedly done Saxenda, and I did that for quite a long time, but I wasn't taking it daily. Saxenda is a daily injection. I wasn't taking it daily. I was concerned about side effects and also about the cost of the medication as well, because I don't get any rebates from Medicare or any sort of insurance. So it does get quite expensive. Whilst I was on Saxenda, I noticed that I did feel less hungry, but it didn't really stop the food noise. And I will get into why that's so important for me. But Mounjaro has been completely different because it has 2 compounds. It's got the GLP-1 plus it's got another compound called GIP. And that, for me personally, has been a lot more effective. So let's start from the beginning. As a child, I was always chubby. I came from a family where pretty much all the women were overweight, and not just a little bit overweight, but a lot overweight. As a chubby child, I was quite active and not overly obese or anything. I just wasn't one of those skinny kids, that you see. My sister was the skinny kid. So as I got older, as a teenager, I did slim down, and it was when I was about 20, I started gaining weight, or maybe even a little bit earlier, 18, 19, something like that. I started gaining weight. That's when I had gotten to my largest. I was a size 24. My 20s were basically wasted because I had all of this weight. I had a self-esteem in the gutter. My self-worth was at rock bottom. I had lost myself. I was so fat. And we all know how the world judges fat people, right? It was not fun. So for 10 years, I went around in circles, on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, off a diet. This brings me to the food noise thing. I believe by going on diets and off diets, I created for myself a binging disorder, because that's exactly what I was doing. I wasn't happy, obviously, and I would binge to stuff my feelings down. In those days, I called it emotionally eating. I had read somewhere that that's what it was called. It was emotional eating. And even to this day, sometimes I refer to it as emotional eating. But if we're being very technical and medical, it was a binge eating disorder, because I was eating far past my hunger. I could feel my stomach full to bursting, but I still wanted to eat, which made me wonder, what am I trying to eat away? In hindsight, I think it was the feelings about myself. At age 26, I think I decided that I would go and study for 2 reasons. Firstly, I was so grossly overweight, I wanted to help myself. So I enrolled in a health science nutrition course. I thought it would be a good opportunity to build a career, and I had no idea. I didn't put that much thought into the career side of things. At that point in time, I just knew that I needed to help myself. It wasn't until I was 28, I was a couple of years into the course, I was doing all of the foundational subjects like biochemistry and anatomy and physiology and that sort of thing. And then I fell pregnant. I ended up losing that baby at 26 weeks. It was the most horrific experience anyone can ever go through. At 28 years of age, I am in hospital, terribly ill. I had preeclampsia. They induce you because the fetus is too old to be aborted, so to speak. I was induced, I was in hospital, my blood pressure was absolutely through the roof, and I had this, chaotic thing going on with my body. They had to try and get my blood pressure under control because I was at real risk of having a stroke or something. It was at that point I was really at rock bottom. I was miserable before this happened. I hadn't really lost much weight at that point. I was still trying to figure out the binge starve thing. It was after the baby that I felt like the only thing I had control of at that point in time was what I put in my mouth and my weight. It was from hitting rock bottom that I decided I needed to really do something, because I was really at risk of just ending it all. I was so depressed and grieving and traumatized, and it was just the most horrible time. That's where I started. I decided to take everything that I had learnt up until that point with my study, and I started reading extra books about sports nutrition and about nutrition in general, but specifically for weight loss. And back in those days, we didn't have things like Mounjaro. Like, we had Duramine, but I didn't want to do that because I knew how unhealthy it was. I just started counting calories. I started actually on quite high calories. I think I started on 2,000 a day, because at this point I was well over 100 kilos. And for my size, like, I'm only, 5'2", I'm not a big person. My frame is not that big. And because I was also still healing from the baby and the trauma, I just decided I would start working out every day. I started with 20 minutes a day. And I remember when I started, I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to do this, because I had tried so many times before, and the state that I was in mentally and emotionally, I was really at risk of committing suicide or something, so I was scared. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to do it. I started. I promised myself I would do my best. 11 months later, I had lost 41 kilos to be exact, but who's counting? And that year was quite a journey. I started to explore why I was eating. I started to explore everything in my life, like what I really wanted for my life. I dealt with the grief. I saw counsellors, although I personally didn't feel that was very helpful. The one thing that I did, though, was I started journaling, and I journaled every single day. I poured my heart out into pages and pages and pages. I journaled about everything under the sun, how I was feeling that day, what sort of workout I was going to do, if I felt like doing the workout. But 9 times out of 10, I did the workout, only because I really didn't want to disappoint myself again. Yeah, I think journaling really helped me to understand how I'd gotten into that mess, and it really helped me to navigate my way out of it and to deal with all the grief. During that year, I was focused wholly and solely on finishing my course and losing the weight. So by the time I'd finished losing the weight, I was very close to finishing the course as well. I should do another video about the changes that occur when you go from being grossly obese to all of a sudden a thin, young, good-looking, blonde woman. Like, I changed everything. I got braces, I dyed my hair, everything about me changed. And I had people that I knew gasp when they saw me after such a long period of time, and all of a sudden I don't look like me anymore. I had people that did not recognize me. Sometimes I'd see myself in a reflection in a window. This actually happened one day. I was at the shops, and my younger sister has always been very, very slim. She's the opposite of me, can't gain weight. Very slim, long blonde hair, all the rest, right? And one day I'm walking into the shopping centre and I see my own reflection, and I thought I was looking at my sister, and I actually got excited that I was about to see my sister until the realization came that actually I was just seeing myself. So that was funny. Anyway, yeah, so I ended up graduating, became a nutritionist, and from there, because now I looked and felt totally different about myself, my confidence had grown, and the world opened up for me. I got a job as a nutritionist in a very large pharmacy. I was actually on quite a good income, which I don't know how that happened, but it did. And so I started helping other people to lose weight, but not only lose weight, it was, helping them get their cholesterol under control or helping them with their type 2 diabetes and so forth. Yeah, I kept the weight off for 15 years. Initially, in those first few years after I'd lost the weight, I had slowly gained a few kilos. Like, I'm talking like 1 kilo a year. So it was so slow that I didn't really notice it, and it didn't really affect my self-esteem or anything. The majority of the weight stayed off for 15 years. Then I got married. My husband and I, at first, we were like a storm in a teacup. He was everything I wanted and some, but ultimately it didn't work out. Our relationship was very turbulent. It was up and down and all over the place. And I started to feel like I was losing myself again. I started to feel like my self-esteem was taking a hit. My self-worth was taking a hit. I mean, it was never as bad as it was in the first place, but I did feel like I'd lost myself. I was thinking to myself that I couldn't remember the last time I felt happy, and I decided there and then that I was going to pull my life apart. My marriage was already in the toilet. I wasn't happy with my job. I felt like I needed something new, and so I decided I would pull my life apart, end the marriage, quit the job, and start fresh and try and find some semblance of myself again. And so that's what I did. And for the past 4 years now, I have been single. I moved interstate. I ended up going back to the job, ironically, and then got promoted a couple of times, which was a great experience. I actually loved the job after I had ended the marriage and settled into my new home interstate, and and had some space to find myself and discover what it was that I really wanted for my own life. Here we are. I've just turned 50. Through the end of my relationship and the following 4 years, I gained quite a bit of weight. I went through a little stint of, some might call it depression. I actually didn't feel depressed, but I was drinking, which is not great if you're trying to be healthy. The binging had snuck back in to try and cope with those feelings of grief again. I had started binging. It was never as severe as it once was, wasn't as often, and it wasn't as severe in terms of the amount of food I was eating, but I was definitely heading for junk food when I felt uncomfortable about where my life was at. Anyway, here we are. I am now on Mounjaro, and I must say, taking this stuff is miraculous for someone like me who has struggled with emotional eating or a binge eating disorder. It really does help me to get my mind under control so that I can think logically and do what I need to do. I'll make another video about my journey so far over the first 9 weeks of taking Mounjaro and tell you about the little hiccups that I've had and what I have had to address personally. So stay tuned for that. It is also in this playlist. My aim for this channel is to share as much nutrition information as I can for people just like me that are going on a GLP-1 journey. Together, we can build a metabolism that won't slow down once we finally get off the GLP-1, because that was my goal the first time, and it works, guys. It works. If you focus on changing your metabolism, which can be done, you will be able to keep the weight off for a very long period of time. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I stopped counting calories, I stopped exercising for the majority of those 15 years. Now that I'm here, I have no choice but to look forward and to once again train my metabolism to be a firing little furnace that will keep the weight off, because I don't want to be on a GLP-1 forever. They're expensive. Yes, they make things easier, but it was pretty easy over that 15 years to keep the weight off. It's not like I was dieting all the time. So if you're interested in learning a little bit about nutrition, which you can apply into your life, which will help you with long-term success, then subscribe, join me on this journey, and I will see you in the next video.